Welcome back, everybody. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence for Wilhelmina Gilligan, retired teacher, and Pat Malloy, a retired secretary. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America
and to
and
the
to the republic for which it stands,
one nation, under God, indivisible,
with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. 4.01, child abuse presentation, prevention, presentation by Mr. Coffey. First of all, thank you for doing the presentation, and it's all yours, Mr. Coffey.
Ron, thank you for being up with my phone call out of the blue and making arrangements for me to present. I appreciate it. I don't know, I know a couple of folks on the board here, but don't know most of you. I'm a retired teacher. I taught in this city of Poughkeepsie School District for 30 years. And after retiring, I'm not the puttering or in the house kind of person. So I took a job with the Center for the Prevention of Child Abuse. Easy mission to get behind. And after having worked with kids just about my whole life in one way or another, it seemed like an obvious bridge. And so I want to tell you that while I was a teacher, I knew about child abuse like everyone else. And there are some times where it was pretty obvious, obviously applying to my kids. But I tell you, since taking this job, I've learned a lot. I know a lot more now than I did then, and it's a lot of things. I know what I didn't know then, and I wish I did. You may or may not know, but people who are mandated reporters, they get that training in the very, very beginning of their careers or before they even start, and then there are no refreshers. Here I was 20, 25, 30 years later, and I didn't have all the tools. So I learned a lot, and one thing I've learned is how prevalent child abuse is. And every time I've done this presentation live, and even sometimes online, someone comes up to me and divulges that they were abused as a child. In fact, I would bet a lot of money that right here in this group, and certainly including the public that's paying attention, there are people who have been abused as children. That statistics prove that out, that it's that prevalent. And so yet most people don't talk about it, and maybe they think in terms of, well, that's something the police deal with, or those nice social workers. Oh, I don't know how they do that work. And sounds like I'm making fun. I'm not making fun, but part of my mission with this presentation and our organizations is to make sure that people are aware that it isn't just something someone else can do. It's something that we all can be a part of, and we all can do something about. So let me myself set up here. All right. And you can see this, right? Center for the Prevention of Child Abuse. Good. I see one head nod anyway. Good. And so some of the things I want to let you know about, it's not just the prevalence, but the fact that in Dutchess County, let me ask you, how many reports of child abuse do you think there are in Dutchess County each year?
1,000.
Anybody else?
Sins.
Probably about 2,000 or more.
Wow. You know, I should have stopped at 1,000, because usually people say 50, 100, but it's about 1,000 to 1,100 per year reports of child abuse. And estimates around the country are that 5 out of 6 cases go unreported. Really, in Dutchess County, we're looking at 6,000 to 6,600 cases of child abuse, which means you could fill Dutchess Stadium with kids who are abused in 1 year, plus have a 2,000 child overflow, just in Dutchess County. In fact, in Dutchess County and all of New York State, 1 out of 7 households, child abuse is perpetrated in 1 out of 7 households. Which means if you count your neighborhood, go to your neighborhood, count 7 houses. 1 of those 7 houses has child abuse going on in it. I'm speaking statistically, of course. But that's a pretty high number. Everywhere has a ratio that's about middle of the ground, middle of the road in terms of ratios nationwide. But still, 1 out of 7, that's a lot. So I have a quick video that I'd like to show you. I want to show you this first. These are some of the reports over the last 2 years or so, reports of child abuse. These are some of the headlines, I should say, not the reports. Headlines in the Poughkeepsie Journal of child abuse. And I list down at the bottom all the towns and cities in Dutchess County where reports have come from. And if you do a quick calculation, that's every single city, every single town in Dutchess County where reports of child abuse have come from. It's not just, the backwoods rural kids. It's not the inner city kids. It's the suburban kids. It's the high socioeconomic level families and so on. I want to show you a video, and let's see. I think that the audio will play out. Let's see if this actually. There we go. Please give me a thumbs up that you can hear this. I want to make sure, but you won't be able to hear me.
I can hear you.
This is an awareness test.
We can
Yep.
hear it.
How many passes does the team in white make? The answer is 13. But did you see the moonwalking bear?
I show you that video because child abuse is like the moonwalking bear. It's often right in front of us, but we don't see it. And a lot of times people don't. The biggest reason people don't see it is they don't know the signs. So, for example, if you, and I apologize for all the words on this slide, but what would you think? It's a rhetorical set of questions, but what would you think if there's a neighborhood child who gets into a lot of fights? What would you think if one of your children used to like playing with Uncle Bob when he came to visit and stay over, but now they avoid him? They almost seem afraid of Uncle Bob. What if you had a child in class who suddenly became consistently withdrawn and distracted? What if you coach a child who always had some sort of injury? When you ask what happened, their explanations and the parents' explanations just don't seem to make any sense. They don't match up with the explanation. If while you were listening, and I'm doing this quickly, but while you were listening, if you thought, yeah, there'd be a problem there, yeah, these are all red flags for child abuse. Here, oh boy, sorry. Here are some other signs of child abuse. Now, I'm not saying, even with the ones on the previous slide, I'm not saying that, boy, if there's a child who's constantly fatigued, that's it, they're being abused, right? It's a combination of things. Certainly if a child hurts themselves, like if they do cutting or bruising or something, that's a big red flag. And it could be child abuse, it could be something else. A child bedwetting, I'm talking about, an older child, 6, 7, 8, 10, 12 years old, right? So these are all signs that people might not necessarily connect to child abuse. And so in this training, that you're getting the 50-cent version, but in this training that where I go into more detail and so on, part of the goal is for people to now be aware of those signs. The ultimate goal is for people to know the signs, pay attention to kids, and then if they suspect, to report something that they suspect that it's something bigger than just what they're looking at. What if a child came to you and disclosed? What if they kids rarely will disclose. They rarely tell anybody that they're being abused. What if a child came to you? What would you do? Would you know what to do? And so people's first response might be, well, I'd call the police. Okay, that's possibly part of it, but there's more nuance to it as well. In the training, we go through that and what kind of, what sort of reactions would be best for that child, and then what happens after that. One of the things I talk about as well, teaching online, right? There's been a lot of online teaching or hybrid learning and so on in different school districts. Well, some things I want you to know, and that what goes on in the training is that teachers are still mandated reporters, even though they're online. There are ways to prevent or work to prevent child abuse from happening to a child before you even recognize it, but ways to help prevent it. What things do you look for? What things do you listen for while you're communicating with a child on the computer, online? There are conversations that can be led or, started up with children to get them to talk a little bit about what their experience is at home. And there are ways to safely enlist other children to help keep them safe. So I'm kind of doing two things here. I'm part telling you some of the information about signs of child abuse and so on, but I'm also telling you about the program as well. So the question then is, for you and for people I would do the broader presentation to is, what would you do? What would you do if you saw a child in any of these situations, possibly the threat of sexual abuse, physical abuse, or mental or emotional abuse, or severe neglect? What would you do? And a lot of times, like I said before, people say, well, nothing I can do about it. It's the police or the social workers and so on. Right. Well, the CPCA has this slogan to be a hero for kids. Know the science, pay attention. And if you suspect a hotline, there are hotline numbers and so on. Sometimes I go into why people don't report. What is it that makes people not report? Well, they might think, well, I don't want anybody to know it's me. Reports are anonymous. They'll take your information, but nobody's going to take that information and then run to Mr. Smith and say, hey, Bob Jones over here, bad choice maybe, Mike Jones over here reported you, and that's why nobody's going to do that. Maybe I don't want to get anybody in trouble. Well, I'm not the expert. You're not the expert. You call and the family gets investigated. Be a big plus for that child. Maybe there's somebody else will do it. Well, now I shared with you that other people don't do it. 83% go unreported. The number one reason that people use for not reporting suspicions of child abuse is that they say, well, I don't want to get that child in any more trouble. Well, altruistic, that I guess you're thinking, I don't want the child to get hit more or something like that. Here's the reality, though, if you think about it. That child's being abused and you don't report it, you're basically walking away and letting that child be abused. That child's being abused and you do report it, there's a really good chance their life will change and improve. If they're not being abused and you report it, there's no data to show that that parent then starts abusing the child. So people are hesitant to do it. It's a big step. You're kind of taking a leap of faith by doing it, but you potentially could save. Gosh, I hate that it sounds dramatic, but it's true. You can really save a child's life. I don't mean just save them breathing, but I mean the destination or the outcome of their entire life. I want to talk about long-lasting consequences of child abuse. Here are two brains, brains. Child on the left, not abused. Child on the right was abused, same age. Notice on the left-hand side, all the colors filled in means that brain is developed in an age-appropriate way. It's got colors where they belong. This child on the right, there we go. There's my cursor. Child on the right, if you look in the bottom part of the brain, this is the fight or flight or freeze mechanism, highly developed, right? The child maybe is fighting or fleeing a lot of times. A lot of empty spots here. And if you notice here, especially, these are the two main parts of your brain where your attention span, your memory, and your ability to control your own behavior are all focused or are really developed. How's that child going to do in school, right? Their attention span, their memory, their ability to control their own behavior. And does that child ever catch up? They're already missing things academically, right? In those early years where they learn how to read and they learn basic logic and sequencing and basic math skills. Well, now they're behind everyone else. And even in terms of being able to maintain their attention, so do they ever catch up there? Not unless something drastic changes in their life. Continue to be abused over long periods of time, then that's not going to catch up. Some other things, and I feel like I'm dwelling on some of these things too much, but boy, I get revved up about these things. Long-term effects, psychological effects, physical effects, in terms of how children have relationship difficulties, all develop in that because of abuse. Psychological effects, meaning high rates of depression with people, depending on the severity of the abuse, high rates of depression, high rates of, relatively speaking, suicide, toxic stress syndrome, perhaps criminal behavior. 30% of the people who are abused as children, again, depending on the severity of the abuse, become abusers themselves. Physical health, high incidence of cancer, arthritis, and then relationship difficulties. You know, grown up not having good relationships, how do you then expand that and make it better later? So another point that I try to make to people is that knowing the signs is very important. It's crucial. Paying attention to kids is crucial. But instead of just waiting around and until that moment where you happen to notice a child, there are other things that people can do to help stop the child before that. One of the things when I'm doing this presentation, I check that off for people. So look, the first step is to sit through this presentation and gather some information. And I ask people to talk to at least 3 people and mention about the presentation, about child abuse. The intention is to get the word out that you as an individual, I as an individual, people can do something about it. It's not something you sit there and watch. I ask people to read material that I distribute, to like something, and then help me find more audiences to talk to. We just something for you to know. We project Protect 2021, where we are trying to reach at least 2,021 people by the end of this year. Actually doing pretty well so far. And the CPCA is an organization that we have 4 main functions. This is the Child Advocacy Centers where children who are abused are brought in, and they're put through what's called a forensic interview that I won't talk about. There's community education, that's me. We do an internet safety presentation as well. There's the personal safety program. Maybe you're aware of that, where our staff go in and talk to children at the elementary level. Really good presentations. I don't know if any of you have had children who sat through it or had it presented to them or heard about it, but really good presentations. Talk to children at an age-appropriate level about what part of your body is appropriate for someone to touch, or if you feel unsafe, or that kind of thing. Good stuff. And then the supportive parenting program, where we teach parenting skills to people who are developmentally disabled and need to learn how to be good parents. There's my information. I went pretty quickly. You please sit through my presentation. Come and join me in the presentation. You're going to walk away knowing a whole lot more. I gave you some of the pieces here and there. I'm trying to be respectful of time. Hopefully I didn't go over my 20 minutes, but it's a powerful presentation. I know a lot more now. People walk away knowing more. Even like I've done presentations to social workers and people who do know this field are much more involved in the field than I am, and they say they walk away with something that's. So anyway, so I invite you to join in. I do regular presentations on Tuesdays at 10 and 5. I can set up a special time for any group, or even if you as an individual wanted to sit with me for 45 minutes or an hour, that'd be terrific. I do presentations to different groups. I've spoken to Rotary clubs and emergency volunteer squads and auto body shop one time. Just for me to come and talk to the staff. I'll be working at Pauling Central School District on April 5th with their on their superintendent's conference day. So I mentioned that because I'm selling my product. I'm not a great salesman, but I'm selling my product, and I appreciate you listening. I also just wanted to talk to you as of the community, for you also to be aware that there are things that you can do that I can do. That didn't come out as smoothly as I would like it to have, but I think you get the point that it's an incredibly important topic. You guys are here because you like children, you love children. It's a big issue than I ever thought. So I am open to any questions or comments if you all.
Rick,
Yeah, Rob.
Rob Rubin, this is a great presentation. Thank you very much. I would love to see you give this to us at BOCES, but my question to you is, would you be a board member or would you be a presenter if you gave it to us? Sorry. Thank you. This was a great presentation. Thank you.
Yeah, well, thank you. It's bumpy because I'm trying to squeeze a lot in the short period of time. But Rob, you remind me that Kelly Lappin has been kind enough to let me present a whole presentation at the Dutchess County School Boards Association
Yeah.
in May. So if anyone joins in on those meetings, then I'd be thrilled for you to be there. So you can see the whole thing.
Does anybody else, any questions? Mr. Coffey, I'll talk to the superintendent, perhaps at a future Superintendent's Day conference. Maybe we can utilize your services. I appreciate it.
All right, well, great, thank you. I really appreciate the time. I know you guys have a full agenda, so.
President Lumi, I'm sure we can arrange that. And Mr. Keller Coffey, I'd like to thank you for your dedication and your presentation this evening. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Coffey,
All right,
thank
hey,
you.
thank you.
4.02 recognition comments by Board of Education. Board members have the opportunity to provide recognition to individuals and programs within the district that they would like to highlight and make the community aware. Please try to limit your comments to 1 minute each, please. Anybody make any comments? Any board member want to make a comment? Rob?
Just want to congratulate, I saw it in the newspaper, the John Jay High School cheerleading squads. I think they came in first. I forget the competition. Kudos to them.
Anyone else? Linda? Anybody else? Well, I'll say something. Nobody else? Okay. First, I'd like to congratulate 2021 John Jay.
I think Linda wanted to say something.
Oh, I'm sorry, Linda. Go ahead. Unmute yourself.
You're muted. You're muted.
You're still muted, Linda.
There she go.
Okay, Linda.
All right, I'm unmuted. All right, give me
Thank
1 second. Can you still hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, good. I want to take a moment just to recognize the teachers, the administrators, parents, students, and my fellow members of the Board of Education of the Wappinger Central School District for their forbearance and dedication to the education of our students in the past year. Our new superintendent, Dwight Bonk, with the Board of Education support, has done everything in his power to get our students back in front of their teachers who, in my estimation, are simply superheroes. May the next year bring some semblance of normalcy back to our families, our staff, and our lives.
Thank you, Linda. Anyone else? All right, I'd like to congratulate the 2021 John Jay and RCK Winter Scholar athletes in the boys and girls basketball, boys and girls track and field, boys and girls bowling, boys swim team award, gymnastics, and as Mr. Rob Rubin said, the cheerleaders, wrestling team, and also I'd like to congratulate the RCK girls field hockey who won the regional championship, and the bowling team, which finished second place in the Dutchess Regional Championships. Congratulations to all the students and all the respective coaches. Anyone else? See none. Thank you for your time. 4.3, public comments on agenda items. A total of 30 minutes at the beginning of each board meeting is set aside to allow for public comments on agenda items only. Individual comments on agenda items are limited to 3 minutes and are welcomed. Based on the Open Meeting Law and Board Policy 1230, debate or dialogue with board members is not allowed during the meeting. Compliments or complaints about student discipline, specific student issues, or personnel must not be addressed during a public comment. Comments or questions submitted to the use of the public comment form will be sent to the appropriate staff member who will provide a response on the district public comment response webpage. If you wish to address items relating to our school district that are not on tonight's agenda, another comment period is provided at the end of the meeting for that purpose. In the interest of civility and respect for different points of view, clapping, booing, or any disturbance or disruption is not permitted. At this time, comments related to agenda items are welcome. Please state your name and the agenda item you're speaking on. Alberta, are there any comments from the public?
There are none at this time.
Thank you very much. 5.01, Superintendent Report. Dwight, it's all yours.
Thank you very much, President Lumia, Vice President Odoms, members of the Board of Education, and members of the Wappinger Central School District community. I have a number of announcements this evening. And I'd like to lead off by recognizing our school social workers. They're now as important as they've ever been, more important as they've ever been, obviously during this pandemic. This is School Social Workers Week. And obviously, our social workers have done a phenomenal job of connecting with our families and identifying necessary community resources that help support our students' success, whether that be academically, socially, or emotionally. They continue to collaborate with our building administrators, our school counselors, and our parents to provide a strong foundation and assist so that we can all work together to live and grow as citizens within our district. So I want to thank the school social workers for all of their efforts and recognize School Social Workers Week. In addition to that, I have a number of announcements and a number of thank yous. First of all, I'd like to say congratulations to Van Wyck Junior High School, recently recognized once again as a Schools to Watch by the New York State Middle Schools Association. I'd like to congratulate Dr. Shukat, the administrative staff at Van Wyck, and the entire faculty for doing a fantastic job. Congratulations on this fine honor. In addition to that, Hudson Valley Magazine has identified 5 Wappinger Central School District teachers for Teacher Appreciation Awards. And I'd like to recognize them now. Mrs. Bamba, Mrs. Darling, Mrs. Constantino, Mr. Nicola, and Mr. Roberto. Thank you for representing Wappingers in such a positive manner, and we're greatly appreciative to you and all of your efforts. As one of the board trustees, I believe Trustee Rubin recognized the John Jay cheerleaders, Dutchess County Regional Champions. Congratulations, John Jay Cheer. And now some thank yous. As many of you are aware, we were able to transition to 4 days a week for in-person learning K-12 for the majority of our students. The first thing that I would like to say is, for those of you who still have not joined us 4 days and wish to, we understand your disappointment. We're disappointed as well, and we're working tirelessly to make sure that those opportunities are available. I can share with you that we received a shipment of dividers today. We're receiving another shipment of dividers tomorrow, and we'll be receiving a third shipment earlier next week. So my hope is that if you have not been accommodated at this point, within the next week to the next week and a half, I am very, very hopeful that we can accommodate most of you. I would like to thank the entire staff, the faculty and staff, the administration, the teachers, all of our collective bargaining units for working diligently over the past few weeks in putting together a solid plan and implementing such to bring many of our students back for 4 days of in-person instruction beginning today. It could not have been done without you. And again, this is quite a feat. This is kindergarten through 12th grade at 15 schools. This is a work in progress, and that work will continue until we make substantial progress and get everyone who wants to return back. I also want to say to our remote learners, we have not forgot about our remote learners, which makes up about 30% of our school district. We will continue to provide you with the remote learning opportunities that we have to this point through the remainder of the school year. We are there for you as well, and I want to make sure that you're aware of that. In addition to that, I think it is important to recognize this Board of Education for their support in making this a reality. We've never been through this before. There's no playbook for navigating through a pandemic. It's a lot of trial and error. It's a lot of doing the best that you can. Sometimes it's failing and learning from it and turning a failure into a success. We would not be in the position that we are today if it was not for this supportive Board of Education. And I personally would like to thank all of you for your support in regards to bringing our students back to school. And lastly, to our parents, to our students, and our community. We know that you've been patient. You've been very patient. We are very pleased that we are where we are in this journey at this point. And as I mentioned before, we will continue to work as this is a work in progress. We are certainly on the right road. And I want to thank all of you for your unwavering support as well as your patience. You have truly advocated for your students and for our community. That has been heard, that has been accepted, that has been supported. And with that, that concludes my comments for this evening. I believe now we're going to move to a spotlight on music in our schools. So with that, let's move on to that next item.
Thank you, Dr. Bonk.
My pleasure, Dr. Watkins. Thank you.
Absolutely. I'm thrilled to be back with the spotlight for you as our superintendent. So this evening, thanks to Mrs. King, our Director of Fine and Performing Arts, we have two of our students from Royce Ketchum who will be presenting two songs for you. Our first one is from Maya Siegel, and she will be singing the national anthem. So Darren is going to cue that up.
Please stand, I guess. Cannot hear, Darren.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, saved us that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Very good, Miss Siegel.
Thank you. Okay, and our next artist for Music in Our Schools Month is Tatiana Blackhorse, and she is actually going to be singing an original song that she wrote, and it's titled Four Leaf Clovers.
I see you staring from the end of the tunnel. Why can't you come to me? 'Cause I still struggle to pass these racing cars in an empty street. You are making it hard to resolve the problems surrounding me. How does meadow alone, I hear the song of birds chirping in the trees, sunlight's touching my skin, forgiving my sins. I now feel like I am in a place full of lavender surrounding me. Calmness whispers, you are now the best you can be. Now I know that the person staring from the tunnel was me.
That was great. So thank you again to Maya Siegel, and that was Tatiana Blackhorse. Amazing job that she did, and an original song at that. So thank you again to the board and Dr. Bonk for allowing us to showcase our students in music in our schools, and congratulations to Royce Ketchum. They're doing amazing work with their students. I only miss that I can't run up the back of the auditorium at WAP Junior so I can take their picture, but I'll take some afterwards of the screenshot and share those out. Great work to those ladies, though.
Thank you, Amy.
Thank you.
5.03 budget discussion and board wish list.
Thank you, President Lumia. Dr. Watkins, again, thank you. Excellent job. And to our students, great talent. Really enjoyed those songs. Good work over there, Royce C. Ketchum High School, as well as our entire music program. And obviously, as we move out of this pandemic and we're able to do more performances, we look forward to that, something that I truly miss. So with that, Ms. Crandall, are you there?
Yes, there I am.
So it is my pleasure to introduce our Assistant Superintendent for Business and Finance and the financial guru of the Wappinger Central School District. That would be Kristen Crandall. And Kristen is going to share with you where we are to this point in regards to the 2021-2022 budget. So Ms. Crandall, please begin when you're ready.
Thank you, Dr. Bonk, and thank you for that introduction. You can tell that I'm embarrassed out of my mind, but here we are having an additional conversation.
It's all true.
We're having an additional conversation this evening about the 21-22 school year, the calendar, the budget, what we're trying to accomplish with the information that we have at this point in time. So, of course, thank you always for allowing us to have these conversations, and to the whole team, including the Board of Education, that helps us to get to this point. We've been providing the Board of Education with monthly updates. So some of this information is just in summary of what we already know. We know that the Consumer Price Index, or CPI, is at 1.23%, and we also know that it is the second lowest CPI we've had, and that it's a factor in the tax cap. Again, when we're doing the tax cap calculation, there is an opportunity for school districts to either go up to the tax cap, go below, up to the tax cap, or above the tax cap. And the WCSD board has always encouraged and supported Wappingers going right up to the tax cap, and that is what our plan is. We do not plan to pierce it. We do not plan to ask for that. So we plan to go right up to that tippy top point where we can go and go no further. Currently, the New York State Governor's executive budget proposal, there are several pieces in this legislation that are still up in the air, including what the New York State aid looks like by category. There's also a proposal to convert those reimbursable aids, such as textbook and BOCES, transportation, et cetera, to a services aid or a block grant aid, which is very similar to foundation, which can then be manipulated by the powers that be as to what level of aid a district would receive. Right now, reimbursable or exactly that. Based on the prior year's expenses, we receive aid in the following school year. Currently, and this may change given the current activity in Washington, but currently the governor's executive proposal includes approximately $10 million for the Corona Response and Relief Supplemental Appropriations Act. We're going to call that CRRSA throughout the rest of this presentation. So we're waiting to have those finalized numbers, as well as what the district is looking at as the local district funding adjustment, or the LDFA. So while the district is receiving funds through New York State for federal Appropriations Act, there's also that same type scenario that we witnessed during the 2021 school year, where we have money coming in from the federal government, but then can subsequently be taken back by New York State in the event of any issues that they're having with their own budget within the state. As I just mentioned, if those New York State revenue projections do not line up with actuals, districts could be subject to aid reductions up to that LDFA, which is approximately $10 million. We don't have a timeline for that. We don't know for sure that that's going to happen, but the fact that there is a reduction line of up to $10 million in the governor's runs make us believe that that is a possibility. The exact dollar amount of the LDFA, which is also the same amount as the CRRSA, is $10,099,453. If it is implemented, meaning the LDFA does come into effect in the 21-22 school year, and depending how much of the federal appropriation the district does use, we would be looking about to make mid-year budgetary cuts. These same conversations we've had since August and September, October, November of this year would continue into next year. So as we're building this budget, as we're working on gathering information and providing information to the Board of Education, the administration really understands that the need to make decisions for the 21-22 school year has to be what's best for students, but also that's fiscally responsible, because we don't know what this economic environment is going to look like. The rollover document is available, and it can be reviewed by clicking on the link in this document, as you can see in the red box, and it's also available on the district's website. So what we know so far, the New York State aid as proposed is $63 million. That does not include the CRRSA money, which is another $10 million, as you can see in the chart. That means the total potential aid to Wappinger Central School District for the 21-22 school year would be $73,392,296. The possible reduction, that LDFA, could be $10 million, which brings us right back down to that $63 million that we started at the top of the column. So that is something that we're very concerned about. We don't know what that exactly means. We don't know what that CRRSA money is going to come in at. Will it come in at more than 10 million, less than 10 million, as we get closer to the finalization of the budget from New York State? When we did our tax cap calculation, we do have our levy from last school year was $175,328,236. And the proposed levy, based on the calculation, meaning bringing us what our allowable tax levy would be $179,699,213, or an increase of approximately 2.49%. This is the important number to note. This 2.49% is what is allowable. It is not piercing the tax cap, but that is the calculated amount that is allowable after all 8 steps of the process for the tax levy calculation has been completed. So what do we know about next year? What we need to be aware of? First and foremost, we need to see what that 21-22 New York State governor's proposal looks like. If the aid continues to remain flat, as it has over the last few budget cycles, and there's no additional money coming in to New York State, i.e. from these outside federal dollars, we have something called a funding cliff, meaning that if the state cannot make up that differential, what does that mean? That means New York State aid is significantly reduced. So we need to make sure that we're aware of what our breakdown looks like. How much of our aid is federal, how much of our aid is New York State, and how do we budget? So this is just kind of a cute little picture, making kind of a joke that we don't want our 22-23 budget cycle to be the next Wile E. Coyote that falls off that cliff. So we're trying very hard to make smart decisions now as we move forward into the school years next year and beyond. So as we're looking at what our possibilities are for the 21-22 school year, again, without having any finalization on that federal money or even our New York State aid, we have some scenarios that the administration is working together as we look to compose that rollover budget and make that into the superintendent's recommended budget for the next board meeting. The first option, we'll call it scenario A, is using none of that CARES Act money. So if that CARES Act money came in and we didn't use any of it, we would have to make deep budgetary cuts to the existing rollover budget in order to make it balance. You can see the cons are in red and the pros are in blue. But we wouldn't have to worry about making any mid-year funding reductions because we wouldn't be using any of that federal money. So we wouldn't have to worry about making any of those cuts. So if we did receive any of that CRRSA money and didn't have to give any of it back or the net amount, it would fall to fund balance, making our fund balance be approximately 5.39%, assuming we didn't have any change in operations for this school year. So it's just an extraneous number. It's just taking the June 30th, 2020 information and tossing in an additional $10 million. Scenario B is the complete opposite end of the spectrum. We take that $10 million, we say we are spending it all this year, and what does that mean for our budget to budget? What does it mean about our existing rollover budget? This, as you can see, this scenario has a lot more cons, things to be aware of. We would require extreme mid-year cuts because our budget would be significantly higher. It would have the greatest impact if a funding cliff did occur in subsequent years. Our fund balance would remain about the same as what it is right now. We wouldn't have any extra federal money that would fall to fund balance. But it does allow for a growth of our budget in the 21-22 school year. The third option, C, is kind of the middle of the road, where it takes some of that corona relief money, utilizes it in the 21-22 school year, and allows for the balance of it to be rolled over into 22-23. This could require some cuts if the cuts did come through, but not as much as it would be in scenario 2. There would be a small impact if a funding cliff occurred and New York State could not make up the difference in state aid in 22-23. However, it would allow us to increase our fund balance if we did use a portion of it and it fell to fund balance in a subsequent year, which then could be used in the 22-23 school year to offset any balances that we would have, any differences in our budget that we may encounter as a result of changes in state aid. So the administration has been having several conversations trying to figure out what best case scenarios are. How do we move forward, especially in light of the superintendent's budget being presented, excuse me, in 2 weeks. And also, within a week and a half of that, hopefully getting a New York State budget, which would help us to finalize a lot of this information. So our next steps would be gathering feedback from the board, which will be what our next project will be right after this presentation. We're also discussing all of the budget priorities at the senior staff level. Superintendent's budget would be forthcoming. We'll continue to provide updates to the board, educational updates to the learning community. We have a lot of things going on here in Wappingers, and it's all for good. Hopefully get that number for New York State aid sooner than later, and just continue all the good work that we're doing in this process And that's what our goal is here, finding the best way to meet student needs, keep the district growing, and also allowing for financial decisions that are smart in light of the economic environment we find ourselves in. So did anybody have any questions here, or did we want to just jump right to the wish list priorities for the Board of Education at this point in time? President Lumia, how did you wish to
Does
proceed?
anybody have any questions on this presentation? Anybody? John Morgan?
Thank you, President Lumia. Assistant Superintendent Crandall, thank you. I think you did a great job providing both new information and summarizing what we knew. I also think you were very polite when you talked about the difference between reimbursable aid and service aid. Given the size of the Wappinger Central School District transportation fleet, the geography that we cover, the BOCES obligation that the district incurs as the largest district in Dutchess County. Could you talk a little bit about not just this year, but the potential future ramifications of removing reimbursable aid from the formula that's imposed on us from Albany and going to a service aid scenario when so many of those 11 categories that make up reimbursable aid are big ticket expenses for the Wappinger Central.
Certainly. What's rather interesting, if you look at the New York State proposal that has come down from the governor, we're actually getting almost $1 million more than we would have gotten in reimbursable aids in the 21-22 school year. Wappingers is not having an adjustment that several districts around the state are experiencing as a result of the services aid. The problem is that, just as you said, Trustee Morgan, our expenses continue to grow. So we will quickly outgrow that $1 million increase that we are projected to get under the current proposal in the 21-22 school year. We will quickly outgrow that, which means that within 2 years, Wappingers would actually be seeing the detrimental effect of having that conversion from reimbursable aids in the area of transportation, as well as BOCES in particular, although textbooks, library books, hardware and software, all are important areas as well. But we would see, as a result of those large expenditures, significant reductions in our aid that could have been if it had stayed reimbursable. I don't have projections out like that. That is something I could do if the board was interested based on the way we see our growth going. But at this point in time, I don't have anything like that.
Thank you. I thought that was important to expand a little bit more upon, as opposed to, again, very politely pointing out that it would put a lot of control in the hands of the powers that be in removal formula. Thank you for that clarification.
Any other questions? Go to the next topic. Thank you, Christian.
Sure. So as part of our annual as part of our annual budget process, we like to look to the Board of Education to try to get an idea of their wish list. We asked the buildings, we asked the departments what their wish lists are. So we also then speak to the Board of Education and look for their feedback as to where they feel it is important for the district to concentrate on. So we took the top 3 based on ranking, as each is given a ranking by a board member through the process with the help of the district clerk, Ms. Pedro. So the top 3 this year are adequate mental health professionals to deal with mental health issues, psychologists, and social workers. The approximate new cost of a teacher, inclusive of salary and benefits, is $120,637. And that is the top priority of the Board of Education, is to increase or find the adequate level of staff to meet the needs of our students as well as our employees.
Ms. Crandall,
The second,
Ms. Crandall, if I may just interject, let me say that I found all of these priorities to be excellent priorities. And believe me, I wish we could include all of them. But I think if you take a look at these top three, especially coming out of a pandemic, they make perfect sense. One of the concerns that we've all had, not only has been how our students have done academically, but how they've done socially and emotionally. We have to understand that over the next couple of months and as we get into next year, we may have some students coming into our classes that we haven't seen in over a year. We need to assess how they're doing emotionally. And in order to do that properly, we need to make sure that we put an emphasis on mental health professionals that are going to be able to work with our students that are struggling, that are having difficulty, that are going to have difficulty accommodating to coming back to school, maybe dealing with some other issues related to COVID. We know it's impacted everyone, some more severe than others. In addition to that, we need to maintain our class sizes. We've worked very, very diligently to get to where we are through the work of a number of people. And again, now more than ever, we've got to make sure that we personalize the instruction to our students to make sure that we don't have more kids in a classroom that we should, so that these teachers are able to provide the individual instruction necessary. They need to be able to check to make sure that the students understand the material, and they need to make sure that they differentiate the instruction to our students to tailor each of their learning needs. The more students in a classroom, the more challenging that is to do. And right in line with that again, number three, more trained school counselors at the secondary level. We've been very, very fortunate. Our counselors have worked above and beyond at the secondary level. Now more than ever, again, we need as many of them as possible, because not only are they dealing with the school counseling aspect of scheduling and outreach to parents, but also referrals to outside organizations or referrals to our mental health professionals in the event that our students are struggling and dealing with some emotional effects from the pandemic. So I just wanted to state, I think the Board of Education is right on board with these top three. Again, I think they're all important, but again, now more than ever, those top three, I think, are critical to us moving forward and making sure that our students have the ability to move forward with proper guidance and assistance. So Ms. Crandall, I just wanted to jump in on that. If there's anything else that you wanted to add, feel free.
No, Dr. Bonk, I think you did a wonderful job. So what will occur is these items have all been shared with the senior staff, and we will commence our conversations and work together as we attempt to assist the superintendent in getting his budget prepared. I think that's about all I have to say at that point in time.
And I know
Thank
that
you.
it's referred to as the superintendent's budget, but it's our budget. It's the community budget. It's all of us together in collaboration. And again, we need input. We continue to get input from the community as well as to what your priorities are. Those are important.
Eddie, you have a question?
Dr. Bonk, I mean, it might be a little premature. I don't know if you've even had this conversation with Assistant Superintendent Zip, but in just kind of piggybacking off your message, item 1 and item 3, would we have any idea if we, I mean, numbers wise, if we're able to find the money within the budget, would we be looking to take on an additional 6 positions, 5 positions? As I said, it might be premature. I don't know if you've had this conversation with senior staff and especially Mr. Zip, but, you know, would we look to bring on maybe 3 or 4 additional positions for secondary and 2 or 3 additional positions for, you know, K through 6?
Yeah, we have had preliminary discussions, trustee Sloshower. We're gonna be meeting over the next couple of weeks to get into the nitty gritty of it and come up with some specifics. But I would expect it to be a cross-section K-12. Because again, I feel that these services are needed at every level. So again, we're gonna be discussing it. We're gonna be crunching the numbers. We're gonna be trying to identify maybe areas of need that may be more critical than others right now. And I'm sure that once the budget is prepared and presented next week, we can give you some more definitive ideas as to where we are at that point.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Rob?
Dr. Bach, for what it's worth, I think that those top three that you listed are so critical. I saw recently on a TV show that, nationally speaking, 1 out of every 4 students has either thought about or attempted suicide. It's a scary thing, in my opinion, to me. So thank you for listening to the board.
Absolutely. Thank you for prioritizing in the manner in which you did. I think you're right on.
Marie? Marie?
Hold on, I had to find my unmute. First of all, I really want to thank you for those top three were really like very close. Just if you could reiterate for the public real quick, because wish list 1 and wish list 3 seem kind of the same. So if you could just kind of, the psychologists are 1 and the social work is a totally different position.
That is correct. That is correct. Different job duties, different responsibilities. Although they work collaboratively together, they have separate responsibilities that they are required for. Psychologists work primarily with IEP students. And the counselors, at least at the initial phase, work more with all students. So again, there is some differential there. And that's the differential that I think that you're referring to.
Correct. I just wanted to make sure that everyone knew, because they both come out, when you look at the prices, they look at the same thing. So people do get a little confused. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Thank you, Dr. Bunk. Thank you, Christian. 6.01 consent agenda resolution. Keith? Does anybody
Okay.
want- First,
John, you want to see if
anybody
anyone
want to
pull
pull
anything?
6.01, does anybody want to pull anything from the consent agenda? John Morgan?
Mr. Lumia, could we please pull 6.06 and 6.07? Thank you.
Anything else? Keith?
Okay. Resolved that the Board of Education does hereby approve the following consent agenda items as stated: 6.02, 6.03, 6.04, 6.05, 6.08, 6.09, 6.10, 6.11, and 6.12.
Motion?
So moved.
So move, Marie, Rob, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
6.06, 6.07.
Gotta do one at a time.
Gotta do one at a time, John.
6.06, all those in favor?
No, you gotta read it.
First.
I can't read it.
Okay, 6.06. Resolve that all claims regarding an impartial hearing brought by parents of student number 39911 be resolved in accordance with terms and conditions of the stipulation to be entered into between the board and the parents in a form satisfactory to the district's attorney.
Motion?
So moved.
Second.
Finished reading.
All those in favor?
John, he
Aye.
has to finish reading it.
He didn't finish yet?
He needs
Be
to-
it further resolved that the board authorizes the superintendent of schools to execute the aforementioned stipulation.
All right, thank you, Keith.
John, you gotta ask for discussion too.
Okay, there's any discussion?
Hold on. Well, who was the motion? Peggy Kelly.
Motion and a second.
I
thought that-
second.
Thank you, Bree.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those abstained,
Aye.
Mr. Morgan. 6.07,
Resolve that the
Thank you, Alberta.
claims, resolve that the claims for attorneys' fees and costs by the parents of student number 39911 in the federal lawsuit, Board of Education versus DM et al. SDNY docket number 19, 1730, be resolved in accordance with the terms and conditions of the stipulation to be entered into between the board and the parents, and in form of satisfactory to the district's attorney. Be it further resolved that the board authorizes the superintendent of schools to execute the aforementioned stipulation.
motion.
Oh, so moved.
Marie Johnson, second, Rob Rubin. All those in favor? All those opposed? I'm not opposed, but, not opposed, but,
Abstain.
Abstentions.
thank
Any abstentions?
Mr. John Morgan is abstained. Thank you.
It passes, right, John?
Yeah, I think so. All right. 7.01. Appointment of board members to the School Counseling Advisory Council. Keith,
Each school district shall establish a comprehensive developmental school counseling guidance program advisory council to the comprise of representative stakeholders such as parents, members of the Board of Education, school building, or district leaders, community-based service providers, teachers, certified school counselors, and other pupil personnel providers in the district, including school social workers and/or school psychologists. The advisory council shall meet no less than twice each year for the purpose of reviewing the comprehensive developmental school counseling guidance program plan and advising on the implementation of the school counseling guidance program. The board president may appoint or ask for volunteers to serve on the school counseling advisory council. 2 board members plus the board president as ex facto. There are 2 meetings each year. The first meeting is scheduled March 23rd at 1:30 p.m. via Zoom.
are there any volunteers for this, the position from the board?
I'll do it.
Okay, 2 people. Okay, Mary Johnson, Peggy Kellen. Is anybody opposed to that? Okay, Mary
I
Johnson.
am, John.
Oh, you are. Okay. All those in favor of Marie Johnson and Peggy Kelland? Aye.
John, technically, there's no vote. You're
There's no
president.
vote. It's a
You appoint.
whoever,
Fine.
it's a
2 people.
volunteer position.
There are 3 people that volunteered.
So,
Go
I
for
believe,
it.
but Keith Odom also volunteered, so you have to take a vote.
If
Oh,
Marie would
you
like
have to
to,
appoint.
if Marie would like to take that position, I'm fine with that.
Fine. In that case, Marie Johnson and Peggy Kelland have been appointed to serve on that position. Of course, myself. Okay. 7.03, new course approval, fundamental mathematics.
Did we do 7.0?
No, we got to do
702 first.
7.02 is resolved that the Board of
All
Education.
right, I got it. 7.02,
Yep.
approval of 2021-22 school calendar. Read the motion, please.
Resolved that the Board of Education does hereby adopt the 2021-2022 school calendar as submitted by the Assistant Superintendent for Compliance and Information Systems and recommended by the Superintendent of Schools.
move.
So moved.
Move, second, Marie Johnson. Any discussion, any comments? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. 7.03, new course approval, foundation mathematics. Keith,
Resolved that the Board of Education does hereby approve the following new course for the 2021-2022 school year as detailed in the information provided. Foundational mathematics.
So move.
Second.
Marie Johnson, second, Rob. Any discussion? I went to the district today and I looked at the actual program. I think it's excellent. So I definitely would vote for it. So all those in favor? Unanimous. adoption of new textbook, pre-calculus with limits.
Resolved that the Board of Education does hereby approve the adoption of the textbook pre-calculus with limits for the pre-calculus course as indicated in the memo dated March 4, 2021, from the Assistant Superintendent of Curriculum and Instruction to the Superintendent of Schools.
Motion.
So moved.
Thank you, Carolyn Marie Johnson, second. Discussion?
Yeah, just a point, John. It's interesting. I think that we're adopting this, or I believe we'll be adopting this, because Sir Isaac Newton, who invented calculus, invented it during a pandemic. Got to be pretty bored to invent calculus during a pandemic, but he invented it. So
This is, Rob, this is pre-calculus, but that's okay. So you're right.
excuse me.
Okay. There was discussion of whether Newton was the first one to come up with calculus, but that's besides the point. Once again, I went to the district office today and I looked at the book. The textbook itself is pretty familiar topic-wise with the old textbook. However, what the advantage of this new book is that students can actually access links where videos to explain further what the teacher in class presented. So I definitely recommend it. So all those, any questions? All those in favor? Aye, unanimous. Okay, unless I made a mistake, 7.05, guys. Let's not worry about, God help us. John, mamma mi santissima. 7.05. First reading of policies. Since this is the first reading, please, for those in the community, look at the policies, see if you have any comments, and I said multiple times, address them to Ms. Kellen, who does an excellent job as chairperson for this particular committee. All right.
Peggy has to say something.
Go ahead.
Just for everyone's information, the changes are all grammatical. So there are no changes that are really change the policy.
All right. Thank God for having Ms. Kellen as well as Ms. Linda Rappaport. They're incredible. They put all the commas in the right places, all the punctuation in the right place. Mamma mia santissima. And I'm looking, okay. All we do is, yes, I agree. We agree. Case closed.
Hey, I helped with a couple of capitalizations.
Yeah, you're right.
I got a couple of capitalizations in there.
Thank God.
We are the
Thank you,
nitpickers
Eddie.
and residents.
I just
Good
listen.
job.
You know. I can't make any comments. I do make 8.01 is next, I believe. 8.01 board members may request additional agenda items, discussion items, or requests for information. Are there any additions to the agenda? Seeing none. 9.01 comments from the public. Alberta, you got the floor.
Okay, let me take a look.
Go ahead.
No comments submitted this evening, board members.
Mamma mia santissima. You mean we could actually go home?
We are home.
You are home, John.
We're not all home. There's only one person who's not home yet. Two people actually.
No, there's two. There's two of them.
There's two of them.
Three, because we
Marie-
have Dr. Bunk and Mr. Morgan and myself.
Oh, that's right. He's still at work. You're right. You're 100% right. And with that being said, I call the meeting to end. All those in favor, adjourn the meeting. Marie Johnson, drive second, and all in favor? Everybody's in favor, except for Dr. Bunk. He wants to continue.
I'm in favor. Have a good night, everybody.